welcome back to Game 3, where Giants Gaming have a chance to end this series in a sweep as they are 2-0 up against the Ninjas in Pyjamas. Tough times for the Ninjas right now, but you gotta think Giants have to be riding incredibly high with this playstyle that they found. Ninjas have no answer. Yeah, of course, Giants looking very strong. That game, as we mentioned, was even roughly, well, no kills up until 20 minutes, and then 25-30 the game was done. You cut and paste in like the first like 15 minutes and it's basically the same thing, and then the ending, except you do it 10 minutes earlier, and that's basically what happened. Yeah, it really was just a bizarre game, but Giants, okay, we came into the day expecting a little bit more towards team fighting, a little bit more towards putting on the shoulders of minitroupax, but Jizuke's like, no, we'll play 1-3-1. We'll get an Echo in game 1. We'll Guys, get a couple weeks ago, it was
minitroupax's turn. This time it's mine. He gets the Echo, gets the Kassadin.
He's had good mid lane matchups, and that's been enough to give him the platform to just go, okay, now we basically just win this game. That is a ridiculous percent of the damage, 43% of the team's damage for a mid laner.
That wasn't even that late game. It was 25 minutes when the game ended.
Yeah, and I guess that's why he has a particularly high kill participation, is because there was only 5 minutes of kills, and that was the point.
Can't get any higher, man.
That was the point at when Jizuke was running around getting every kill. So that's a pretty good way for Jizuke to play the game. I think the struggle has been NIP giving Nagne matchups, which we're going to have the opposite of in this game, because NIP will be on the red side for the first time this series. It was their side selection choice. You have to estimate that it'll be putting Nagne onto that counter pick as the last pick. But look, Nagne hasn't been doing a bad job as such, but NIP haven't been able to play around him at the same time. This Corki was a pick that was meant to get later on into the game. It was a blind pick for the late game.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that it seems like NIP kind of overlooked what Jizuke could do. They didn't also ban out a whole lot of AD carries on minitroupax, so it was kind of like comfort zone all across the board. Instead, they funneled a lot of their attention over into Prophet and gave him that first pickup of the Gnar. But even on that champion where he's, kind of had pretty consistently good performance, he wasn't able to do much. The lane was just held constantly by this Poppy, and by the time he maybe could get a solo kill, out of the bushes came a rift-walking Kassadin.
Yep, and it even ended up being the opposite way around for Giants, where sometimes it was NIP in that final sequence trying to lock down the Kassadin in a long lane, and you're like, oh god, this guy's got a rift walk, you're never going to actually lock him down. And I feel like we didn't really even see the full extent of what that Poppy was meant to do, because we didn't really see any disengage or like engages blocked with the steadfast presence, because they never really got there. They didn't have any fights that NIP were trying to start.
Yeah, the highlight reel had to be what was happening down on the bottom when the great Jizuke chase of 2017 ended in disaster for NIP. Now we'll see what happens this game. As you rightly pointed out, we've swapped some sides, so Alistair starting off the Cassio band away as well. That much is still the same.
So Giants, just as a note, you can see the armband that Giants are wearing, the black armband, out of respect and solidarity. Of course, the events in Barcelona earlier in this week. And as we head into a game 3, Giants will be fully focused now. 1 game away from the LCS. Last draft, see if they can find the same playstyle being on a different side now.
Well, clearly Ninjas in Pyjamas have decided they do not want to give the Gnar away, just not have it in the game, so that'll be one of the adaptations that we see. It's back over to Giants for their last ban of this first phase. So far, it's been 2 supports aimed at Sprattel. Here on patch 7.16, it seems to be the flavor thus far, and we continue with the Orianna being banned away.
So, Ori banned has been banned in all 3 games away from Nagne. Giants putting the focus on that Orianna. Now NIP have the final ban. Will it be the Kalista that we've seen people having that high priority on? Giants did get it in the last game and it looked good. We've got the Zac still available.
Didn't see him last time around.
But this is likely to mean that Talia is going to be there if NIP want to take it for Nagne, which could be the matchup that they want.
Yeah, Maokai banned away, so Gilius will have to find himself a new friend in the jungle. Now, what do Giants pick first? Would they maybe... Is it even feasible they would grab the Talia away in a first pick? Is that even valuable?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because I think Jizuke will be confident enough playing up against it. Talia, I imagine, will be last pick of phase 1 for NIP. Giants here have the option for the Kalista. The Zac is there as well for Gilius. last second pickup. It's the Jarvan.
Okay, so Jarvan, a flex pick. You can obviously put it in the jungle, which would facilitate the engage out of Gilius, give him good early game pathing. Could also be the top lane matchup for Ruin into Profit, depending on what gets.
Elise was open though.
Yeah?
Kalista and then Elise. So now Ninjas have definitely got some early game power for HeaQ to try and snowball this team ahead. We'll see if maybe they can do that.
So now the Caitlyn, likely to be a pick for minitroupax he could look towards. Tristana would be another one. Caitlyn, of course, had nerfs on 716 that reduced some of her mid-game damage. Tristana doesn't suffer for that, but still has been such a big pick for minitroupax.
So he takes it, no bones about that one in the second rotation. And now are they going to round out their bottom lane on this, or are they going to take a jungler and confirm where that Jarvan's going?
Will they go the Janna route, looking for some of that disengage potential? Will they go towards the Rakan that is not banned for once in this series? Or will they look for a jungler for Gilius? Because if they do lock Gragas here, a Talia pick out of NIP would give Giants the ability to ban some of the particularly difficult matchups for Jarvan. And that's not a Talia, but it will push the lane as hard as NIP possibly can.
Okay, so it looks like NIP have kind of doubled down here on some of their early game potential. Kalista will still be able to contest a lot of objectives and do damage in the later stages of the game. But if you're NIP right now, Stress, what do you round this comp out with? Do you go all in on the early and try to snowball?
They may pick up the Rumble as a team fighting presence. I think if they don't, they will be lacking in later game AP, or not necessarily later game, but just in general. You've got the Elise as one source of AP, but you need a little bit more on top of that. Otherwise, Giants could just build such a tanky front line to deny any kind of AD champions coming through.
All right, well, Giants say see you later, alligator. They do not want to give Profit a chance to try and get that push on early up in the top lane. NIP, it's back over to them for their last ban of this game. 10 seconds still remaining on the clock.
So NIP, where else will they go with this? The Echo is a matchup that we've seen picked by Jizuke quite a lot. The Kassadin was in the last game, but the Blitzcrank has been banned actually by both teams so far in this series. Neither support ran it in the regular split. That's the interesting thing. So it's because it is pretty good in into that Kalista if you can actually land the hook.
Giants really gunning for Profit though once again. So not only did they ban the Renekton, but the Rumble is gone as well. So I'm curious to see what he ends up doing up in the top side against this Jarvan. You should see that maybe being locked in last, to be honest.
Jax,
fill it out with support here.
Jax is a matchup that will scale, but would be full AD. NIP opting for disengage here, so Jax would also give them a split push option. That is the other half of that. Camille not banned for once. May find herself picked up here, but look, Giants looking at support. Lulu would give them good shielding later on in the game, decent push alongside the Caitlyn, although obviously both had their push nerfed at different patches throughout this season. Mid lane pickup now, what are we looking for? Mid game, an early game focus would be more beneficial since you're going later game with the Caitlyn. Oh, but that's way late game with team fighting. This is a pick I've been expecting people to pick up a little in some of the matchups. Now that a lot of the mid lane matchups have been nerfed, but this is not one of them. That's an interesting one.
Well,
so
you said Nagne is going to be able to push all day. I think that might be your answer to that.
Well, the thing is, Viktor can stop the push coming when you've got that upgraded Hex core, so that you have the laser attachment for his E that explodes. Now, the thing about it is, it's later on into the game that that'll come. I wonder whether the Lucian will have already had the impact there. Get this Elise working in the middle lane with the Lucian. A lot of kill threat on a Viktor. Elise force the flash early and re-gank him, but that's likely to be one area HeaQ might go. The other would be top lane. Camille locked in, as mentioned, for Profit. If you can get the Camille rolling, maybe you can control the top side of the map too.
Yeah, and it's not something Profit's actually gotten his hands on, but remember, this is the first game, or the first series he'll be playing on patch 7.16 here on the stage in Berlin. But if Profit can get ahead enough early on, push Ruin back in, get himself a few kills, we've seen what he can output. We've asked the question and had our answer twice. Is it enough for him to carry? No, but he's got one more chance to make that happen. And NIP have doubled down on the early game pressure. We'll see where HeaQ goes, up top, in mid. Probably just hold the line down on the bottom side, but Nico the Pico, a lot of question marks that we have to see if they are answered as he shakes hands with Andre going off the stage, and Giants Gaming on the cusp of pushing themselves straight forward
into that winner's match. One series to decide the next team in the European LCS.
NIP in this matchup have a lot more of a solid early game focus. Giants have some pretty catastrophic late game damage when they get there with a Viktor and a Caitlyn. It'll be up to Ruin, Gilius, and Jactroll to kind of hold the line for Giants, as you put it. A lot of earlier on in the matchup, and then NIP, it's on them to kind of take control of the early game. I want to see how this game plays out. Interesting one. Only one game separates these teams from next week's fate. A win for Giants puts them a series away from the LCS up against Schalke. Whereas a win for NIP would hold them on in this series, take them to a 2-1, maybe start building towards the always difficult reverse sweep. That's the only option for them in this series now.
Yeah, well, they need to be able to survive. You do not want to get swept in the promotion tournament coming down from the LCS. And for Giants Gaming, the adaptability that they have shown has been impressive. A slow, crushing game one. Similar start in game two. Ended up turning into one massive, quickly rolling snowball. And now they've gone all in on that later game. Starting things off, no trickery, a few pings flying, but NIP know that Giants Gaming have this side of the jungle covered, so instead, they're not going to even opt to go too far deep into enemy territory. Just one ward down for either team on either side. Typical stock standard.
I'm making the big prediction here, Pyra. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Tell me, what is it?
Sprattle's going to win the race. Unless there's a significant laning advantage the Giants pick up. Because Sprattle's running gold runes, Jactroll is not.
I mean, that's kind of an unfair advantage, isn't it?
Nah, it's fine. Yeah, maybe it is a little unfair.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good prediction. I just feel like it's a bit stacked.
The other side of that, though, is minitroupax and Jactroll. You expect them to have a decent amount of laning presence in that bottom lane. You see, they're already pushed up in the bottom lane, trying to get as heavy a push on to the lane early as possible. See damage traded onto Sprattel quite effectively this early on. Of course, Lulu with the passive adds those additional auto attacks on the basic attacks. So
yeah, that's a pokey lane.
Or at least the on-hit that comes through.
But here's the thing, if NIP continue to kind of struggle in this because this matchup is going to see them pushed back over and over again, does that mean that we need to see HeaQ starting to maybe abandon his plans in the mid and the top and try to push down and hold the line in bottom? It seems like the answer would be no to that.
Yeah, I hope not. My hope would be that HeaQ can get one of the other lanes snowballing effectively, and then that's what they can use to build from, because while minitroupax and Jactroll have looked good, I don't think they have dominated HeaQ and Sprattel to the point where this is an emergency that, you know, HeaQ can't hold on his own. So I feel like HeaQ should still be looking on the top half of the map for that.
Well, so far, Prophet's been able to shove in Ruins, kick things off, small CS advantage, but of course, they both have a fair amount of sustain with the corrupting potions built. Prophet going down to place a ward in the jungle to make sure he can't get ganked out by Gilius, as he signals that they do not see the jungler in that side of the map.
On the opposite side, Gilius looking for vision control over his own, trying to get in on the bottom side jungle. Gilius not appearing on his Gromp actually means that NIP are a little wary of where the Gragas could be. And you could see Gilius just check the mid lane, roll the barrel under the brush and see whether HeaQ was in there, but HeaQ was not. HeaQ is actually coming from the other side of the map, though. This could be a play for First Blood if he can get into the lane. Jizuke already low.
Nagne, oh, Ignite already spent, forces that flash, and the Spider was skittering forward. Jizuke knew there was no hope for him, so he has to spend one summoner to combat the other.
That's exactly what we needed to see out of HeaQ, though. Gets into the lane, gets the summoner down from Jizuke, and now, look, long cooldown where Viktor has to play in a lane that he's going to get pushed in against a Lucian who can trade heavily for him. This is the matchup style that we wanted to see out of NIP. Something where Nagne can take control early and say, no, I win this lane, I will take control. Whereas Jizuke has to sacrifice a lot of time now in order to stay safe.
Oh, HeaQ is waiting to see if he can get the play off. It looks like we're in for a level 4 dive. No, the cocoon does not connect. He's going to walk the long way around.
HeaQ's like, don't mind me. Don't mind me. Spider just coming through.
It just keeps on going, and that's when you want to smush it. But he's like, no, it's cool. I'm good.
Yeah, he's getting his way out of the house. Always try and get the Spider safely out of the house, like in a glass with some card under.
I mean, I live on the 4th floor, so like if I let him out, he just falls. I can't really do that.
Yeah, that's kind of bad. That's not good. But still, you got to try and be humane about it, Pyra.
I try. Nothing humane about that one, though. HeaQ was trying to go for the kill onto Ruin, and he knew it. minitroupax and Jactroll holding once again on the bottom side. So despite the fact that it's all about the late game for Giants, this matchup for the time being will definitely go their way. But for NIP, you know, it is early game. That is the way we've seen them get leads quite a lot. But it's a race against the clock. You're 2 games down against Giants. You double down on this early game pressure. When is that timer going to run out? Obviously, there's a lot of time to work with. I'm just wondering.
There's a lot of time to work on this one. I think the difficult aspect of this game is there's a lot of theory about how NIP will be ahead for the majority of the early game, and there is, in some respect, a timer on that with Giants being good in the late game, and that's kind of what you're talking about. But for me, Giants, if they get a lead like they have in the last 2 games, will already be so catastrophically far ahead with composition. If this comp that should be from behind actually gets ahead, NIP have very few options to get back into the game.
Yeah, that's the control, and you can see that's why they're racing for it. So, of course, HeaQ has the Moby boots all ready to kick things off, and we'll see if he starts going a roving a little bit faster. You can see how much more movement speed he's going to be able to get. Now, with the control ward down on the other side of the jungle, he's spotted out Gilius as he's on his own wolf camp. 1 lane pushed in the mid, that's the Lucian, so the gank opportunity may not come there for a while. You still got to keep all eyes on HeaQ and see where he ends up going.
Doesn't matter necessarily about the gank opportunity so much in the sense that, look, the CS advantage for Nagne is exactly what he wants. He can just keep pushing in the middle lane, try and get tower damage down. They've spotted the Gragas, so they know there's no kill threat or gank threat. And Nagne has his flash, has the dash as well, so it's a lot about getting damage down onto that tower at the same time. And now that they're post-level 6, it means Nagne can trade his ult onto Jizuke for damage, maybe even ult for ult on the tower push game. Try and just push the wave back as far as possible.
All right, so I got an update for you, Stress. The race has been forfeited by Jactroll. He's gone for the Sidestone.
It wasn't much of a race. Really, when you don't indicate that you're going straight to Ardent Sensor, you basically lose that race. And it's something that Lulu is less prone to do, less prone to get Ardent Sensor right at the beginning of the game. We have seen a couple of different schools of thought on that. Whereas Janna is just like, I get like 4,000 gold worth of stats when I buy this item for my AD carry, so of course I'm going to rush it.
Yeah. Very, very useful on the side, especially for that Janna. But of course, Lulu wanted a little bit later on. Nagne on his level 7 has a culling popped straight into the wave, and Jizuke's not quite there because he's occupied by trying to get this blue buff.
And this is a pretty significant blue buff to take away here. This is the one where Viktor should normally be picking it up, and it will assist him in wave clear. You can see HeaQ doesn't want to wait for Nagne because Nagne was backing away. Nagne would rather have the itemization, whereas he wants to head towards Profit in the top lane.
Need to bait out Ruin here.
Yeah, they know HeaQ is up here. There was a vision, there was a ward, I believe, that spotted, or at least a ping went down onto HeaQ to say he was likely topside.
Gilius is coming. This could be the double bait. All right, tack sweep. Ruin hits 7. Ult is available, and is he going to use it? Yes, right on top. But Gilius coming out of the woodwork, and they turn their attention. Jarvan jumps the pit, and Gilius and Ruin caught up, but now HeaQ, he can't skitter away in time. It's first blood for Ruin, and it looks like it's going to be more. Profit forced to flash and slash, and he can't find the kill. Gilius playing bodyguard.
Here comes Nagne.
Maybe he's going to be able to do it.
I'm
not so sure. In comes Nagne, the double tap. It's not quite enough until the final shot, equalizing on the kills.
Oh, Giants taking the advantageous trade in the beginning of it, knowing that HeaQ was coming up to the lane. They were able to prioritize HeaQ as the primary target. Squishy doesn't have any defensive stats, so jump onto him. Good roam out by Nagne, though, knowing they could get up to the top side in time. It did allow Jizuke to get a little bit of farm, but look, Nagne picked up a kill. That's exactly what they wanted. Look at how Giants turn on HeaQ immediately. Gilius goes right on with a body slam flash. In came the Cataclysm. Ruin. Beautiful EQ flash combo. What that does is extends the knockup to wherever Jarvan lands. It's a very specific pixel-perfect mechanic, but one that we see a lot of Jarvan players utilizing. Body slam to deny Profit. Wasn't quite enough to pick up the kill there, but Giants take a 1-for-1 with the first blood up on the top side.
Excellently played now, and Ruin's going to have a little bit more optimism as he was able to get the 2v2 played away, and Nagne, even though he had the wave shove, was able to go up to the top side. Still just the equalizer was all they found.
Here's the culling.
There is going to be the culling. Popped out. He has to burn his flash, and Chaos Storm was on, narrowly avoided the gravity field, but Jizuke, importantly, once again, the flash had been back up. He comes back out of it alive.
Yeah, now it's going to be even more difficult for Jizuke because people are more active around the mid lane. He has to be careful for profit roaming. There's a teleport available.
He's not backing.
Yeah, he's not backing because he needs to save the wave for now. And that's why Gilius walks into the lane for him. You can see Ruin on his way down too.
Yeah, it looks like both junglers pretty much keeping tabs on each other constantly. Nagne dashes forward, but unfortunately doesn't find any more shots.
Yeah, Nagne dashes forward because he knows Jizuke is recalling, and it would have been a 3 versus 2. Profit had roamed down as well. We haven't really checked into this bottom lane matchup too much. minitroupax misses the combo and is down 12 CS currently in this matchup.
minitroupax maybe having a little bit more trouble. However, it's worth remembering that Giants, very contrary to the last couple of games, have built a comp specifically for making that late game happen. And NIP,
right.
You know, they have a gold lead, but it's slim. It's built primarily off farming. They didn't even get the first blood.
Yeah, and that's where Giants, with this composition that they've built, will have the emphasis in the late game, especially the Lulu on top of it. Like, Lulu can bully people around in a laning phase, can push out, but look, minitroupax and Jactroll know their strongest point is going to be later on in the game. That's when they'll have a big advantage over this Kalista and Janna. And remember, minitroupax played the Caitlyn in the first game. 5 items, just destroyed everybody.
Slowly, too. That's the thing. He just consistently sending shots flying. And Giants have played this very patiently. It's kind of weird to think about when you talk about a 25-minute game that just happened prior to this one, but Giants have been the patient team, waiting for NIP to make mistakes. It happened once again up in the top side. Yes, Nagne was able to find an answering kill, but at no point in this entire series has it appeared that Giants didn't have at least some level of control.
But this is a better game for NIP. And to put the focus on NIP, they gave Nagne a matchup that actually works better for him. He is succeeding in this, but they have to continue to play a little bit around him. He can create leads, he can open up some areas of the map. But look, now that Viktor is past that first upgrade on the Hex core, he's also got Ninja Tabi to defend against some of the trades. It means Nagne can't push through that mid lane solo. He needs additional help.
We'll see if he ends up getting it. HeaQ made a couple of appearances in this mid lane, but lately, wherever he has been, Gilius has not been far behind as he moves his way into the NIP jungle. A little wary that there might be a spider lurking in the brushes, but he should be worried about what's happening down a little bit further south, as HeaQ is actually going to mirror him.
I think the most interesting thing is the fact that in this series, Gilius has basically been following HeaQ around the jungle, but has also been out-farming HeaQ. In every game now, like game 1, there was a notable CS lead. Game 3, there's a notable CS lead again for Gilius. It accounts for a few hundred gold, which is quite a sizable lead considering we anticipated HeaQ would be having a bigger impact. Now, of course, there's an assist in there as well for Gilius, and it's not just the farm that comes through, but Gilius, a guy that's been out of the LCS for a while, actually showing up quite big over the last split.
Making a statement that he can be back in that LCS quite easily. Jizuke is stuck in the 1v2, and there's nowhere for him to go. The Chaos Storm stops short as HeaQ comes up with 1 kill. So now he's going to have a little bit more of that gold in his pocket.
This time, Gilius wasn't there. He was a little way away from the lane. HeaQ ending up getting into the lane. No flash was available for Jizuke. Tried to exhaust his way through it, but this is the matchup that we said NIP want to win through, and they're trying to do that even more so now. Okay, Nagne should be able to finally get damage down onto the tower. HeaQ is holding Gilius back. Nobody is there to defend yet, but NIP actually released the pressure. They don't continue this.
And it looks like we might be in for a couple of one-on-ones. Ruin debating if he can take out Profit. Flashes on both sides of the aisle here.
That's actually a weird sequence of play. Unless I'm missing something, they had vision top side, they had vision bot side, Jizuke was still dead, and HeaQ at least was holding Gilius. They knew Nagne was still mid, so HeaQ and Nagne can 2v1 Gilius and try and get some damage down onto the tower. One of the things you do with Lucian is get the push onto the tower, take a third of its health off and say, okay, now I recall. I can understand, though, if Nagne's focus is on the next passage of play. He says, okay, I'm going to recall, get a Blade of the Ruined King and look to push in a couple of minutes' time.
Oh boy, Jactroll is going to have to wild growth himself here. HeaQ finding an opening, but he pulls the Ren stacks out perhaps a little earlier than he would have been able to get the kill. minitroupax gets the heal, so Jactroll costs his AD carry a summoner spell, and this might open up a chance for NIP to start pushing in a little further on the bottom lane, the more neutral of the 3 lanes.
And NIP do kind of need quite a quick pace to this game because, look, Ninja Tabi is starting to roll in. Camille was drafted as the final pick. That's not exactly any other additional AP that comes through there, so they're relying basically on Elise to deal some sense of magic damage. This is the pace they need, though. The push on the bottom lane, they can get a tower very low. They'll try and do the same on mid lane. And they're trying to catch Giants before the armor completes itself.
Yeah, it's a tough task, though. Giants, once again, not presenting a whole lot of opportunities for NIP to punish, a handful at best.
Full man dive on the bottom lane.
Shook. Yeah, 3v4. I don't know how these odds are going to work out, but Jizuke is coming to try and save this one. However, it looks like once again NIP will be able to find the first turret in the game. Let's hope for them it's not prophetic of anything else to come about, because it hasn't won them any games so far.
Well, whether it's about prophecy or prophets at this point, Prophet in the top lane is going to be one of the players they need to play around at the same time. So bottom lane has now been won.
His net worth is lower than Ruins.
I know. His investments are in Ruins.
I mean, I guess he's invested in trying to kill Ruin, but that is another story. Ruin, though, on this Jarvan has actually been able to do what we saw him do in the Win and Reign series, but with impunity. He's been able to push up a little harder. Prophet just hasn't been able to really answer him. And you can see that, you know, there's pretty much an entire item difference here with the Tiamat versus the Tiamat and the Phage versus just the Phage.
Yeah, and both of them actually have about between 13 and 1,500 gold right now on their person. So when they end up recalling, that'll be the difference.
That's why it sucks for Prophet. He didn't put the money in the bank.
Not yet. He hasn't banked it yet. So for NIP, they make the play on bottom side. Giants backed away knowing that they didn't want to end up getting dove. The next step for them is a little trickier. They need to somehow get top lane tower. They need to then put focus towards mid lane. Rift Herald might be a key component of breaking through this Viktor, because Viktor has done a good job now since the upgrades on the Hex core of just pushing Lucian back, constantly just making sure the wave is pushed away from them. I wouldn't even be surprised to see Jizuke just ult the wave like we see Orianna's do, just to say, hey, okay, I'm just going to push this back. We're not going to skirmish anytime soon, and my ult cooldown is low enough.
Yeah, and he's got enough damage to be able to do it, and Nagne has to respect. But, you know, to point back to what you said earlier, that NIP really needs to start playing around Nagne. We've seen a handful of appearances by HeaQ. Yep. One of them resulted in that kill, but is it troubling that at this point they've not been able to knock down the tower with the fact that Nagne does have a winning matchup finally?
I wouldn't say troubling. Viktor is pretty good at denying that. I think if we flash forward 5 minutes in the game and it's still standing, or 10 minutes in the game, then we're getting to the point where, like, okay, NIP really needed this tower down earlier on. I think the next sequence of plays will likely result in an attempt for that mid tower, but right now it's bottom lane they're going. Fate's Call has been cast, double knockup.
Oh yeah, there's a teleport coming in, but this might be too late. minitroupax is gonna get fired down by HeaQ, pulling the Ren stacks out. Jactroll's caught. And the bottom lane of Giants once again proves cannon fodder.
Yeah, good timing though on this. Ardent Sensor was completed by Sprattel. They had the Blade of the Ruined King. Prophet had the time to teleport down to the bottom lane and get himself into the mix here. That was exactly what NIP needed to put the game in their favor. Remember, we said NIP need to be in the lead. Giants are playing for the late game. NIP need to continue the objective game going in their favor and try and crack as much as they can. Now, this is just Jactroll and minitroupax without a tower there, pushing up. And look, Prophet was already in the lane for this fight before it even engaged. NIP had made the call, and Giants couldn't survive through it.
Yeah, unfortunately, this time, once again, the bottom lane just seeming to be the ones making the mistakes. We hadn't
on the top side.
Now here comes Gilius looking for Sprattel. He's going to be able to complete the channel. Sprattel has a shield. Don't know if it's going to be enough here. HeaQ coming in, ace in the hole. That's going to be it.
Yeah, it actually connected on the body slam there. Sprattel couldn't quite get the Q out in time, but look, the dodge away from the barrel was the important thing for Sprattel to keep himself alive. Still, Jactroll and minitroupax weren't there in time to actually pick up the kill, and NIP get out with their lives. So for now, NIP continuing to be ahead. You can see Prophet poised around the mid lane, has to be careful because Jarvan's actually going to go in on, nearly caught Prophet.
Very, very close. Was the gravity field thrown down. Now Prophet's going to be able to get away, clear some things. You can see what Giants have done, though. As they've pulled back, they've kept all of their vision inside their own jungle, with the exception of the Rift Herald, where that's at. So they're not going to really give up a whole lot of control at the moment, unless NIP meets them in the open field. I suppose we'll see, and maybe this is the game that NIP finally get that Rift Herald.
Maybe this is a game where they do, but Pyra,
Stress.
we're looking at HeaQ, and then we can look at his items.
Ah.
And we can see a Dark Seal with 5 stacks on it, and a Haunting Guys. Now that's not too out of the ordinary,
but HeaQ is the guy that builds Medjai's.
Yeah, he
Let's be real here.
is, and the reason for it in this scenario is he is the only source of AP damage. So HeaQ's like, okay guys, I'm gonna carry, I've got this. Solo queue, full AP, Elise is gonna be great.
Yep. Who says I'm a cocoon bot?
This is basically doubling down on HeaQ, saying, okay, we have no front line. If we get late game, I die, you die, we all die. The hopes of LCS this week. At least getting one step forward, die.
This is adaptation from NIP. You know, they've realized that Prophet's not going to be able to carry on this one. All right, HeaQ, you're up.
Yeah, that's a worrying.
You could say trend, it's okay.
different tactic here. So I think it's worth putting into perspective again what this game actually means. Because for NIP, they have to win this game to stay in this best-of-5 series. They have to reverse sweep if they want to get past Giants at this point. For Giants, a win here puts them into the winner's bracket of the double elimination promotion tournament. That means this win doesn't put them in the LCS, but a win next week, if they were to face Schalke, would put them in the LCS.
And it's worth noting that, you know, the only team that Giants lost to was Schalke.
Yeah.
And so far, that is hanging true right now as Prophet goes in onto Rain. Inside the cage he goes, but how about this for a cage match? Ruin says, get in here. Oh, never mind, I don't want this one. Hookshot flashing away. Gilius tags in 2-on-1. That ain't fair.
Not fair on that one. Just put as many cages as you can. Believe it or not, Devin, there was a type of match with multiple cages.
I believe it. You're going to tell me exactly what it is.
War Games. It was great. There were 3 cages. Everything was brilliant. We need 1 more cage. Maybe it's the gravity field from Jizuke that'll line up as a Venn diagram in this setting. But look, I don't think we're going to get there because NIP are actually just doing a good job of snowballing this game forward. They're getting more towers. They still have the option to crack that mid tower at one point, but Baron is the thing that is now available. It's not the Rift Herald anymore.
Yeah, Sprattel just standing there. I got scared for a second. I'm like, wait, he's got a Kalista.
He's okay. Didn't even need to flash.
And he knew. All right, so now that the dust has settled a little bit, NIP, there's still a pretty solid gold lead for them. It's 2 towers, of course, 2-0 with the 4 kills that they have, and that's all contributing to that 5,000 or just below gold lead. Giants struggling to try and respond. They have been able to push back NIP for the time being, but it's still the NIP full swing all around this map. Vision being controlled. The Baron pit pretty much lit up like a Christmas tree. But Giants do have some of that vision themselves.
They do. Giants have good control, at least around the entrances to the Baron area, but so do NIP. Look, control wards on the catwalks. Both teams have vision at this point. And we're still playing a waiting game for Giants to get back into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to take a little bit more time if they are going to be able to stall this one out. But it is worth calling back to other performances we've seen. minitroupax on this comfortable Caitlyn pick. When he had 3 items in game number 1, well, he's 2 of the 3 items that he needs to be to make that happen. He was just mowing down people on this Caitlyn. Jizuke's still going to be able to hold waves, and Ruin has had a pretty good performance. Now we'll see if Gilius is able to hang on as well as the Wild Growth comes out, and what was that burst damage? Jizuke looking for more. The Monsoon comes in, but it was a short-lived one. And now Giant fighting the chase, and HeaQ. He has the heal, or he has the shield, I should say. Giants turn that fight in their favor, but nobody's dead just yet. HeaQ out of the action.
Giants have been very quick to look for a Baron off plays like this if it had resulted in kills, but look, Prophet snuck in through the side, took that mid tower that we've been talking about for a long time. And as long as NIP don't lose anybody here and don't all recall at the same time, Giants shouldn't have too many more options in order to win at least this sequence of the game, which would keep NIP in the lead. Remember, Janna can shield the tower, but they go
once more looking for HeaQ.
They got HeaQ.
It's Ruin who gets the final shot on the Dragon Strike, and now they're turning right back to the mid-tier 1. Giants looking to try and swim this Giants in their favor. The Baron pit is calling, Stress, at 24 minutes. HeaQ is going to need to hustle to get into this one.
But
down on the bottom.
Prophet is trying to just push through as well. HeaQ is going to get there in time to be able to look for a steal. This could be the overstay from Giants. They're going to back away. They're actually not fully committing. I say that as they go back to the Baron. A little bit of a miscommunication, or at least split communication.
Oh, minitroupax getting low, but they turn it on Shook. There's no more smite available, and now Prophet's going to be able to fire down the final shot onto the AD carry of Giants, and the rest are falling. Gilius trying to run for his life. Nagne with the double kill. Prophet looking for a third on the attack sweep, and he gets two. And NIP have no smite, but have no worries.
NIP ace Giants for the first time in this series. 25 minutes into game 3. NIP finally building themselves into a game. They have a significant lead right now. Going to be over 8,000 gold at the point that this Baron falls, and NIP are in such a commanding position in this game.
Add a little bit more onto that Baron power play, and we'll have to start recalibrating our scouter stress. NIP at 25 minutes. What a massive lead and difference this game has been.
Giants, they got the pick, remember, onto HeaQ to start this off. Prophet had pushed the bottom lane so far that he actually got the tower before appearing, and then Giants, they're still waiting for this composition to come online. Shook lands the cocoon. minitroupax drops low enough off the damage that Shook can provide. The Prophet just jumps on him with the ultimatum and is able to just take him out. From there, Giants have no further damage, and NIP just walk through the fight. Now they have the Baron buff.
Yep, NIP, they turn it around once more. So, the reverse sweep dream is still alive for NIP, but it will be a long and hard climb, and they need to put this game away before that has any chance of happening.
I hope at Mayhem_43 you have not just jinxed this.
No, only casters can apply the caster curse.
Well,
but I guess I just said it, so.
You did just say it now, okay.
Does it count second hand?
I guess. NIP at this point have enough to close the game with the Baron buff. Look, Nagne can push up on the top side, but he's not running teleport. Prophet doesn't have his teleport on the bottom side, and when we were in a situation like this in previous games, Giants, remember, they made a mistake, got caught out, and slowed the game. Giants have a very good late-game team-fighting team, but they are not quite there yet. 2 items only on the Caitlyn, 2 items on the Viktor. They need at least another item on top of this to get to the point we're talking about.
Clock is ticking, but NIP find themselves in a comfortable position for the time being, and I have to eat my words from earlier. Prophet, now that he's got some kills under his belt, he is giving Ruin so much trouble as this base is going to be broken open with the empowered auto attack. Precision protocol indeed. Ruin at half of his health bar right now. It's a level advantage still in favor of Prophet, and there's no response here for Giants. This inhibitor looks like it's going to be free.
Yeah, Ruin just cannot trade against him. Giants slow to react towards the bottom lane here. Jizuke on a Viktor can't clear Baron minions fast enough. He can clear the back line, but the front line, remember the increased resistance to magic at that point. Now Jizuke tries to trade against Nagne.
One-on-one
He just loses it.
Oh! Nagne, 4-0-4, and Jizuke is not found, and neither is that tower in the middle, as Giants losing on every lane of this game. Baron still live for a minute, and it's desperation for Giants to try and hang on to this one.
We questioned whether NIP could accelerate the game fast enough, and Prophet was one of the key components to it. He snuck into the mid lane, took that mid lane tower down, took the bot lane tower down, now has the bot inhibitor for himself, and throughout the rest of this Baron buff, just under a minute left, NIP can get a second, potentially even a third inhibitor in their favor before recalling out.
Should be able to open up even more on this base. So with not a whole lot, Giants have to wave goodbye to all of their towers here. Nagne is still pushing with 30 seconds left on this Baron buff. Giants, last-ditch effort to try and make a play, but Prophet is hookshotted out.
NIP in a great position to start coming back into this series. All they have to do is avoid any fights from Giants, avoid that all-in engage from Ruin, where Jizuke hits them with a big disco ball to win the fight on the ultimate of that Chaos Storm.
One party you don't want to be invited to.
Exactly. Giants were looking to set up a party for themselves tonight after a 3-0. That was how this series was building. It looked like Giants had NIP figured out. They had the mid lane matchup for themselves, but the all-important side selection for NIP. First of all, they get the Lucian for themselves in phase 1 of the draft. Then they get the good matchup on the top side for Prophet that they know he can win the side lane the later the game goes. And that has been one of the key components to NIP coming back in Game 3.
Yeah, and in the early game, too, there were definitely a few Giants mistakes that allowed some of these things, but it's not to take away from how well NIP have been able to perform to try and close this one out now. They just need to march down through the lines, get a catch on wherever they can. Prophet's hiding on top of a ward that he sees.
That's like an ultimate.
He's like, okay, now I'm going back.
I thought he was just mind gaming. Like, I don't even need to clear this. No,
that was. I wonder whether that was his team being like, "Yo, you're on a controller."
All right, ace in the hole. Nagne shrugs it off. Jizuke is still going to be able to clear some waves, but it looks like the hammer is coming down here inside the Giants' base. NIP to stay alive in this series to try and keep their hopes of reverse sweeping their way into the winner's match.
Baron has expired, but it's a 14,000 gold lead, and that is normally way more than a team needs to close this out. Giants still need even more time. 3 items on Caitlyn is nice, but without being defended by the front line and more damage coming out from Jizuke, minitroupax won't be enough on his own to hold this game.
All Giants standing 5 firm round their last inhibitor. And I think look to try and close this one up.
Caitlyn trap line, just enough to maintain the mid lane from being pushed in.
It doesn't matter if they're closing around the sides.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem, is you've got a whole lot of other leakages in the base. Prophet now wanting to jump onto minitroupax.
Looks for it, but he's not able to find the ultimate out. Now Nagne, there's the Chaos Storm 1v1ing on Jizuke on the other side of this one, and it looks like he's going to not come out ahead.
This is going wrong.
As he's shut down, all of a sudden NIP, they lose one, and they get cold feet on this fight here. Gilius taking a lot of damage. He goes for it, for the flash, the dash, but they're going to pull him back in. The pit comes down. HeaQ picks up Gilius. It's a last desperate fight to the finishes. Jizuke comes in for the burst, deletes Prophet off the map, but Shook and the rest of NIP still have damage in the tank. The Ren stacks are coming out, and NIP find the fight at the very end of it all. 31 minutes into this one, and there is not a whole lot of chance to contest. Giants wanted that 3-0, but they have fee-fi-fo fumbled this one, and the NIP are throwing down a smokescreen to try and take this game.
Yeah, NIP looking to just walk through 3 waves of minions. Jizuke, ooh, just survives through.
Oh, he's got to get back to Fountain. Hell fast right now. This is going to be incredibly close to try and hang on, but it doesn't matter. HeaQ with all the damage in the world. 31.5 minutes, Shook gets a shutdown, and that is lights out. NIP are staying alive.
An important game win to keep them in the series for NIP, and NIP draft for the earlier gameplay. They are able to build around Nagne. This series was being dictated by Jizuke and the Giants in games 1 and 2. Game 3, suddenly NIP get the draft in their favor, give the good matchup, and Giants buy into a scaling game with a Viktor, with a Caitlyn, champions that have basically got that big lull towards the mid game where they don't output as much damage as the likes of Lucian, as a Kalista, and NIP say, okay, we'll just take a bunch of towers. Prophet, instrumental in this win, getting the mid tower, getting the bot tower, and Giants committing to the Baron. Was that the one mistake that NIP were able to turn back around? Very similar to game 1 when the shoe was on the opposite foot.
Seems like we've seen quite a lot of a blue side base today, and NIP staying alive have to be a relieving thing to see that all happen, and overwhelming in the early game to close it out 31 minutes later on the clock. But for Giants, they varied a little bit, maybe experimented more than they needed to. We'll see if they go back to trying for a little bit more of a balanced composition in game 4.
I feel like Giants will just look for the lanes for themselves. Is Giants with the side selection in game 4. They'll just go, okay, we'll pick a winning top, we'll pick a winning mid, we'll take matchups that we can do, and hopefully we'll be right back to it. Of course, game 4 is not something Giants were expecting to be in a position to play after game 2. So now you have to go into the mental aspect of this. Giants now have to settle themselves. A lot of the time, they were always playing from ahead, and that is no longer the case. At least from game 3, they may be broken on that. We'll see how their draft plays out as we go later, but NIP looking a lot better in game 3. That's the NIP we wanted to see.
Yeah, and that's it's not just a glimmer of it. It's what we saw against Fnatic, being able to do a lot and just at all stages of the game, continually forcing the fights, getting the plays. I love that Shook felt like he could go all in on the damage, because that's what they needed, and it worked.
Yeah, didn't get to the point where that front line was all that important. We want to take a look at the turning point of the game. At this point, this is where Giants attempt the Baron. They just had a pick on HeaQ, remember, and they're looking to make the play. Prophet has already got that mid tower and now joins the fight. And this is one of the drawbacks of minitroupax on this Caitlyn, is why Prophet has this Camille, is you get onto the Caitlyn, the Lulu was already dead, couldn't keep Caitlyn alive, and from there they just walk right through the rest of the fight. as NIP ended up going back towards the Baron after the first ace they finally scored against Giants.
Yeah, that was where Prophet picked up all 3 of those kills that he then used to pretty much shove in the rest of Giants down in the bottom. And, you know, give him some serious credit. There's a reason they picked it for him. He was able to shine on it. And we haven't really seen him play this Camille in the summer split at all. So the fact that he just pulls this out as maybe not necessarily a counter matchup, but as something that's going to scale better on the side lanes, I mean, NIP, it looks like they've been holding out on us.
That's the thing is I feel like Ruin has had a lot of these champions that he hasn't had the opportunity to play or hasn't needed to play. He's a player that we've seen a lot of diversity from. And Camille, I had to expect was in his wheelhouse as a champion pick, but it is nice to see it come out and be so effective. I think NIP can look to draft like this possibly in subsequent games. Maybe not first picking the Kalista, but that would then leave it available for Giants. But NIP, this seems to suit them a lot better when they can play around Nagne being the proactive player in the middle lane rather than being in a losing matchup where he can't create pressure.
Yeah, and we spent a lot of the series setting up a lot of talk about minitroupax especially and comparing him to HeaQ, but I feel like the series has really been all about the mid laners and to some extent the top. That matchup, Nagne really got to shine, really got to continually shove things in, and he got more attention from HeaQ, I think, than he got in the first couple games.
Yeah.
And it really made the difference.
He did. And to speak about minitroupax, who you mentioned in the middle there, he had such a difficult time because Camille, every single fight was like, okay, I'm just gonna cage you in, and
then everyone else is out. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you know all about the cage matches for sure. Now, NIP, they take an impressive game off of Giants to stay alive in the series. Find out if this is the start of the reverse sweep after the break. You won't want to miss game number 4.
Holy shit! Wow! It's going for the one
Remember, this might be too late. minitroupax is gonna get fired down by HeaQ. Pulling the Ren stacks out. Jactroll's caught.
Nice, good fucking job. Yeah, I'm coming. Nice, good fucking job. Yeah, we can burn. Okay, nice.
But they're gonna pull him back in. The pit comes down. HeaQ picks up Gilius. It's a last desperate fight to the finish as Jizuke comes in for the burst, deletes Prophet off the map, and that is lights out. NIP are staying alive.